Good morning. It is good to be with you all. It is a sobering morning. And all of those thoughts coming through our heads this morning as we prepare for the day, all of the morning timeline of 9/11 playing in our news feeds. And it's so much to take in. This morning, two things. I've been asked to read a letter from my former congressman, and then my governor, and then our Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. So I'll read this letter, and then I will get into my remarks. From Mike Pence. I'm delighted to send my warmest greetings to each of you gathered in Indianapolis for the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, a special time to join hearts and hands in unity and goodwill, to stand with the Jewish people and America's most cherished ally, Israel, and to heed that ancient call of Psalm 122 to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Welcome to Indiana. I couldn't be more inspired to see the strength of this historic event, bringing together people of faith from Indiana and around the world to seek wisdom and protection from on high. I couldn't be more grateful for your work to foster dialogue between Christians and Jews, to strengthen the bond between the United States and Israel. This gathering comes at a significant time for both America and Israel, as we approach the second anniversary of October 7th, the invasion of Israel by Hamas, the most brutal assault on the Jewish people since the Holocaust, and as we mark the 24th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks on America, we pause to remember the thousands of innocent lives lost on those horrific days, to come alongside the families still grieving unimaginable loss, and to honor the heroes who rushed forward then and in the days since to save lives, set captives free, and defend freedom. So on this meaningful occasion, I just want to encourage you to remain faithful in prayer, to pray for your fellow citizens, and to pray for freedom and peace to prevail for the Jewish people and for Israel. For in these times of uncertainty and anxiety for many, the Bible tells us, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And when you pray, pray with confidence, remembering the promise that the fervent prayer of a righteous person avails much. To all of you gathered today, thank you for your courage and your voice. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you for standing boldly with the Jewish people and the state of Israel. God bless you, and may God continue to bless Israel and the United States of America. Sincerely, Mike Pence, 48th Vice President of the United States. Let's hear it for Vice President Mike Pence. This morning, I'm going to speak to you on the power of one. Can you imagine being responsible for 1,200 people's lives? There's a museum that opened up a few months ago in the Czech Republic at the site where the German businessman Oskar Schindler moved his textile factory to protect 1,200 Jews working in the factory from deportation and death in the concentration camps. NPR reports that the opening was timed to coincide with the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. It was also in May 1945 that Schindler received a golden ring from grateful Jewish survivors, made with the gold taken from their teeth. The ring was inscribed with the Hebrew words from the Talmud, "Whoever saves one life saves the world entire." So can one person really make a difference in this world? Schindler could have looked at the overwhelming number of Jews being murdered and said, I can't do anything. Though not a perfect savior, Schindler made the choice to save the lives of the 1,200 that he was able to save. This is the power of one man who chooses right. Just like Schindler, we have to look at the innumerable problems we face in our world today and make decisions about what God is calling us to do in response. The global need for a Savior is greater than it has ever been. Human hearts are desperately in need of help, and the answers the world is offering they fall far short of the goal. What is the power of one? First, let's answer the question. Why are we here? This is an existential question that has perplexed generations since the dawn of time. It's a worthy one about which many books have been written. However, I'd like to narrow the scope a bit. Why are we here in Indianapolis on September 11th, 2025? Why did you come to this prayer breakfast? What do we want to accomplish? What have we accomplished in the past couple of days? We have political leaders here. We have pastoral leaders here. We have attorneys, business leaders, social workers, educators all here. Why are we here? Well, Albert invited us, so we're here. But we didn't just come to this prayer breakfast aimless. Some came to share an inspirational message. Some came to sing. Some came to learn from others. Others maybe just here out of curiosity. Hopefully all of us came with a purpose to pray. Let me tell you what my purpose in life is. It's simple: to love God and love others. That may seem trite, but this pair of goals are the drivers of everything I do in life. I love my God by having a personal relationship with Him as my Savior and Lord, and in seeking to serve Him in all that I do. I love others by representing Jesus to everyone I meet along my path. In our capital, there are pictures on the wall of previous elected leaders from decades ago. In their day, they were the most powerful leaders in Indiana. I don't know them, and most of Indiana doesn't know them. The sobering reality is that in 100 years, we will likely be forgotten by those who inhabit the earth at that time. So, can we really make a difference? We may never personally see a drastic worldwide change through our lives in our lifetime. In fact, there are very few people who will change the world so dramatically that they will be remembered throughout history. One of those died yesterday. But if our life goal is not about making history, but about loving the Lord with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, then everything we do should be about pleasing Him. Our thoughts, words, and actions should please Him. That is our legacy, and that is how God will use us to make a difference. That's the power of one. So I'd like to walk through a few examples to help frame our thoughts on how to make a difference. A little boy was born as an answer to prayer to a woman who could not have children. This lady decided to dedicate her son to serving the Lord and literally weaned him and then took him to the temple to live with and serve the priests. This was an incredibly difficult sacrifice for Hannah, to give up her dream of having a son by giving her only son back to the Lord to be used by Him in full-time service. God honored her sacrifice and had big plans for young Samuel. Samuel was used by the Lord in significant ways. He's remembered for obediently listening to God, saying, "Speak, Lord, I'm listening." He became the last of the judges that ruled Israel, and he anointed the next two kings. He was God's man, used by God to mightily influence a kingdom. Sometimes God's plan for us is to sacrifice our dreams. Sometimes it is to listen to His prompting to be used for His kingdom. Secondly, another story of a young boy begins with doing daily chores and the responsibilities of farming life. He was simply taking care of the sheep, but it appears he was diligent in his purpose while doing it. The day came that he was given a new assignment. He was ready. He went to visit his brothers on the front lines of battle, and this young boy ended up confronting and killing a giant. David's rallying cry to his brother was, "Is there not a cause?" Sometimes God's plan for us is to serve Him quietly in our mundane chores. Sometimes God's plan for us is to be brave and put our faith in action. Thirdly, a young orphan girl was being raised by her cousin in a foreign country. She was thrust into the spotlight when she was chosen to be queen, just when her people were about to be annihilated. She became one of the greatest lobbyists in all of history. She applied a strategy of prayer and fasting before petitioning the king for her people. Making a request of the king came with great risk to her life. But Esther's cousin and adopted dad, Mordecai, encouraged her to be bold. He reminded Esther that she may be in the kingdom for such a time as this. Sometimes God's plan for us is to petition the Almighty King with prayer and fasting. Lastly, in the 4th century, a courageous monk traveling into Rome was swept along by the crowds to the Colosseum. He was appalled to witness the gladiator games beginning. The little scrawny monk repeatedly shouted, "In the name of Christ, stop!" His voice was lost in the crowd. So he made his way down to the floor in the arena, interrupted the fight between two gladiators. A hush fell over the crowd. The monk pleaded with them to cease. One of the gladiators responded by plunging his sword into the monk. Telemachus' last words were, "In the name of Christ, stop." Sometimes God's plan for us is to speak up boldly, even to our own detriment. So how do we make a difference? By living a purpose-filled life, loving God and loving others. How do we put this into action? Like Hannah, we humbly sacrifice our desires to God's plan. Like Esther, we petition the Almighty with prayer and fasting. Like Samuel, we listen to God's prompting and obey. Like David, we serve quietly in the mundane and then put our faith bravely in action. Like Telemachus, we speak boldly when God asks us to, even to our own detriment. What are you aiming at? What is your purpose? Everyone here likely wants to make a difference, but the answer to the world's ills will not come from houses of parliament or houses of presidents, but the houses of God. We must incorporate the Lord into every aspect of our lives. The plumber should do all that he does for God's glory. The physician should recognize his limits and credit the great physician. The carpenter should do all that he does to please the master builder. The politician should look to the great lawgiver for direction. Our motivation for making the world a better place should not come from a place of pride. William Shakespeare posited this: "Some men search for greatness, others have it thrust upon them." If our purpose in life is to love the Lord, our motivation should be to please him. However, this comes at a cost. You may experience betrayal. Your motivations may be questioned. Your patriotism may be called into doubt. Your methods may be mocked. You may be scorned and persecuted. This is sometimes the reward for trying to make a difference. Welcome to the arena. As we cry out to a lost world to stop their insanity, we may lose our livelihoods, our reputations, or even our very lives. With the right purpose, we can face uncertain futures. With the right purpose, we can call for reconciliation. With the right purpose, we can take on the giants of our day. We have God for our captain and heaven as our eternal reward. On September 11th, 2001, Todd Beamer made a difference on Flight 93 when he was faced with a decision to counterattack the terrorists and the hijackers on Flight 93. His last words recorded on that phone call were, "Let's roll." I echo that call today. We don't have to save the world, but let's make a difference for one person, for the glory of one, for the glory of God. I say, let's roll. Thank you.